ballistic missiles program and to their terror proxies in the Middle East. Actually, there are already terror states, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas. So the Americans themselves recognize that the Iranians are trying to waste time. They are not interested in solving these issues, but to waste time, to gain time. And finally, while we understood that their intention is to very soon take all the nuclear program, substantial and relevant elements to a very deep underground facility, we understood we must act, because if they would have done so, and it was a matter of a short time until they would do so, they were immune. You couldn't strike this facility from by any air force because it is too deep underneath the ground. So we needed to act, and we needed to act now. Of course, if we could have achieved things by diplomacy, the Americans always preferred that, but unfortunately, the Iranians were not a good partner for that.
Now, Minister, Trump says it was a preemptive strike because the Ayatollah wanted to get me, but I got him first. These were his words. So what was it really? Do you believe that the Ayatollah had planned an assassination strike on Trump and it was imminent?
First of all, there was an attempt by Iran to assassinate President Trump in the past, as you know. And secondly, in terms of preemptive, I also deal with what they intended to do. Because if they would have got nuclear weapons, they would clearly feel immune, and they would feel they can do everything without a proper retaliation from the international community. And that was too bad, because as you see now in the Gulf states, you see that they already attacked some 8 countries which hadn't done anything to them, including Qatar and the Emirates and the Saudis and so on. And also Cyprus was hit. I don't know if by Iran itself or by their proxy, the Hezbollah. But eventually, Iran is dangerous to all its neighbors in the Middle East. And as we saw last January, they are also very dangerous to them, to the Iranian people themselves, which they butchered by thousands and thousands and thousands when they try to protest there. So it is a very dangerous regime. This regime should change for the benefit and for the stability and peace of the Middle East and much beyond the Middle East.
A top newspaper has come out and said that you were able to wipe out the Ayatollah and his inner circle in one go because you were actually tracking traffic cameras. You had somehow managed to get into the traffic cameras, so you knew exactly where he was. Can you confirm that? Was that exactly how this happened?
No, sorry, I will not refer to that, and I will not refer to anything right or wrong, which is operational. We have a good intelligence and good Air Force. This is something that I can confirm.
Well, it was excellent intelligence because you managed to take him out and most of the leadership. So, well, congratulations, because that was your...
I want to make it clear, everyone who is ordering attacks against Israel, terror against Israel, and in the case of this regime, they prepare the elimination of Israel, will not be safe anywhere, because we will not wait until they will do what they plan to do. We will get them first.
Well, that was an audacious strike, no doubt. That was, of course, your objective. Is Israel's objective capability degradation, or is it regime change, sir?
I want to explain that. Our wish, our goal is to remove for the long run, for a long term, not for a few months or a year, the existential threats from Iran. But we realize, and we learned it, that it is probably impossible to achieve it with the current regime in Iran. And we don't want to go to a new war every year. So this is why it is probably essential to have a regime change in Iran. This regime change can happen during the campaign, or it can happen after the campaign. But the most important thing is to create the conditions for the people of Iran, which we saw how they fought bravely for their freedom. And it is true, we cannot do it. The Iranian people would do it. But also it is true that without an external help, the Iranian people will not be able to do it. They will simply be butchered, as we saw in the recent past and in other cases in the past.
Well, you fought a war with Iran last year, and that ended in 12 days. The regime stayed on in place, and it also, as you know, and you've just said yourself, was managed to put down the protests against it. So I want to ask you, can there be regime change without boots on the ground, sir?
It's a good question. Eventually, in the previous war last June, our goal was not a regime change. It was limited then on June to significantly harm their nuclear program and the ballistic missiles program, and we were successful with the objectives we put to ourselves. Now it is different, since we saw that even what happened in June is not changing anything with regard to the path that this regime is going, the elimination of Israel, and the means to do that by terror proxies, nuclear weapons, and long-range ballistic missiles. So now the objective is different. Whether it is possible without boots on the ground, it's a very good question, but I believe the boots on the ground should be first the boots of the Iranian people themselves. They should take their future in their hands and meet this opportunity we are now creating for them. We will do our utmost to create the conditions for this will, which we recognize is very strong among the Iranian people, with our American allies.
So who governs a fractured Iran? Let's assume that this regime is very weakened and there is the potential of the people rising up and overthrowing this weak regime. Who would you like to see in power?
It is not for us to decide. I would wish a fair and the free elections that will decide for the Iranian people who will rule them. What I can say is that in the past, Israel and Iran was good friends until the Islamic Revolution of 1979. We had very close ties and connections, and we want to resume that. We don't see the Iranian people as our enemy. They are not our enemy. We see the current regime in Iran as an enemy that swore to wipe Israel off the map, and we will not live under elimination threat, and we will act decisively to remove that.
There are talks that there is the minorities that could play a crucial role, that perhaps countries such as yourself, the United States, and other Arab countries would like to see minorities like the Kurds, etc., playing a more active role. Is that happening on the ground? Do you see that as a possibility, or are they too unorganized, sir?
We will see that in the next days and weeks. I don't want to speculate about it, and I even don't want to elaborate, but I believe that we will see what's going on in Iran in the next days and weeks, whether the people of Iran want to meet this huge opportunity to change path and to move from this tyrant regime who made their life miserable during the last 5 decades.
Did Saudi Arabia privately encourage or coordinate this strike? Was there prior strategic clearance from Riyadh? There's a lot of talk about this.
You said privately, but if they are saying something privately, them or any other states, would you like me to share that? I cannot share things that are being said or not being said if they are being said privately. What I can say now is that we see a huge rage in Arab Gulf states who were attacked by Iran without any provocation, And they are furious, and rightly so, because this regime attacked them with no reason. And of course, they are deserve to live in peace and security, and it is right about the Saudis, about the UAE, or any other state in the Gulf.
Now, I have two more questions to you, sir. President Trump has come out and sent mixed signals on the objectives, the way the Americans see it. He said that regime change is not what we are looking at. You are yourself saying that regime change should be the outcome. Are Washington and Jerusalem or Tel Aviv fully aligned on war aims, sir?
Yeah, first of all, I said that for us, the objective itself is to make sure Iran will not put an existential threat to Israel for the long run. And I said that without a regime change, it is hard to see that. Anyhow, I can assure you we are on the same page. We are coordinated in a very good way in both political and military levels.
Talking about military, do you have the staying power? Do you have the munitions? Do you have the wherewithal, military wherewithal, to stay engaged in this campaign and take it to where its logical conclusion should be in case it stretches? And what is the timeline, sir?
Well, we have an objective. We don't have a timeline, and we are aware to the fact that we will need patience in order to achieve our objective. But it's important to be patient enough and consistent enough in order to achieve it, and not to have another war very soon because you didn't finish the job.
So you will go with it as long as it takes. Is that what I'm getting to understand?
Yeah, I think you understood well.
Iran has disrupted the Strait of Hormuz, sir, through which roughly a fifth of global oil flows, a lot of trade flows also. Is Israel going to join the United States in providing a security umbrella to cargo ships?
Well, the United States and the president himself, President Trump, said they will do that. And we share missions. There are things that they are doing. There are things that we are doing. But of course, it is something which is unacceptable to block international navigation, to harm the world's economy, which is another mad thing Iran is doing. It shouldn't be acceptable, and it should be prevented, and I hope it will be prevented.
They're also targeting a large number of Gulf states, some of these city-states, and you're seeing an effect on the ground there. The costs are escalating.
I don't want to be very pushy, but something like 6 questions ago, you said I have another 2 questions.
Right. I was just pushing my luck. I'm a journalist.
I can answer until midnight, but yes. I have another missions here, so I hope you will forgive me.
Of course, I understand. And
we are always happy to speak with the great people of India.
Thank you. You're so patient, and thank you very much. I apologize for pushing my luck. I'm a pushy journalist. You couldn't expect less. Thank you so much, Mr. Saad. Thank you so much for taking out the time, and best of luck for your campaign. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
We leave it at that, viewers. Comprehensive interview with Gideon Saar, who's, of course, the Foreign Minister of Israel, giving us a brief outline of where he expects this war to go and at what point the Israelis and the Americans will think that their objectives have been met. We'll take a short break. Thank you very much. To try and put pressure on, in fact, the Israelis and the Americans. You've got more updates.
Which are coming in. Fresh Iran strikes on the Saudi Aramco refinery, ladies and gentlemen. Oil refinery site has been targeted once again. The second strike on the refinery in the last 3 days. This will send shockwaves across the energy markets once again as the oil infrastructure in Saudi Arabia has been targeted. But another big news that's coming in.
We don't have pictures of that.
Right.
We don't have pictures.
We'll try to get those, Rahul will try to get those visuals. But this is the big update that's coming in the neighborhood neighborhood, in our neighborhood, big updates which are coming in. A submarine attack on an Iranian ship is what we are learning. An Iranian ship was targeted near the Sri Lankan coast. And the Lankan Navy has launched rescue operations. 35 people have been rescued. Over 60 are missing. This Iranian ship had 180 crew on board. So a submarine attack on an Iranian ship near the coast of Sri Lanka. So this is entering our theater as well.
What's going on? I mean, who are these people? Was this just a normal cargo vessel belonging to an Iranian carrier? What was it doing by Sri Lanka? What's happening here, Tom Cooper? What do you think is happening? Why are the Iranians fishing in Sri Lankan waters?
I'm trying to set up the map so I can show you.
That's way off.
Sri Lanka is down here.
Yes, Sri Lanka is down here.
Every ship of every possible nation has the right to travel along the sea. That's not a problem.
True.
So the question is now who has attacked this ship?
And what was it carrying? Was it carrying material from China?
I don't know.
We don't know
the
why
name
would
of the
it have been
ship or
attacked?
something
Do we
else.
have any details?
Right, we'll try to get some more details, but these are the updates which are coming in. But it's very interesting to see that the Naval Force of the Revolutionary Guard has destroyed the American strategic radar FPS-132 in West Asia in Qatar. This has happened at dawn today. So we can see an escalation of the operations in that region. But it's very concerning if these operations are also spreading over to the Indian Ocean.
So do we know?
They're claiming the destruction of this radar since the first day. And now there are satellite photographs confirming that it was hit. Whether it was destroyed is a different story.
Actually, let's pull out those photographs, those satellite photographs that we have been showing our viewers. Those are the X-rays, really, of those strikes. So then we can tell you exactly what has happened, how much damage has been caused. So let's pull that out, Director Saab, and put it on the wall behind me. But in the meantime, I just want to ask you this. What and who has targeted this Iranian vessel? Do we know?
Who targeted Sri Lanka, given the situation in the Middle East, is something that will send alarm across the Indian intelligence as well as security.
It's now also freeing Iran to retaliate in fashion. And it still has submarines.
This Iranian ship had 180 crew on board, 35 people have been rescued. The Lankan Navy has launched those rescue operations. We'll get more details as more and more updates coming in on this.
I've been reading about that, but there's such little clarity on what went down there, because why would somebody target a vessel with 180 people? What kind of vessel would carry 180 people?
Normal cargo ships don't normal merchant ship would have a crew of 20, 40 people, not more.
Yeah.
So why are there suddenly 180, 200 Iranians on board?
But could there be stealth operations underway from the US and Israeli forces?
Of course it could be,
especially the USA front in this area?
Especially USA. I'm not entirely sure if Israeli submarines can reach this far, because they are not nuclear propelled. But
in any case, where would they have come from? They would have had to come through here, I suppose.
No, Iranian ship from here.
No, the Israeli ships.
Israeli ship would actually have to travel around the entire, at least in order to remain undetected, around entire Africa. It's possible to do. You can send a supply ship, refuel it underway, and so on and so on. But it is extremely exhausting for the crew, also because it would mostly have to operate in very hot waters. Which is particularly exhausting for submarine crew, because on conventionally powered submarine, the air conditioning is simply not strong enough.
And we're getting more information. This is from Al Jazeera, where bodies have been recovered from the Iranian. It's a frigate. It's not some cargo.
It's a frigate. It was a warship.
It's a warship near the Sri Lankan coast, and bodies have been recovered.
What is an Iranian warship doing?
Okay.
Near the waters of Sri Lanka? Is there a base that the Americans have?
I mean, that is really a good question. What was he doing over there? Because Iranian warships did make cruises up to Syria, for example, or Gulf of Aden. They're regularly here also because of piracy patrols and so on. So no question about this. But what was he doing near Sri Lanka? That is outside of my capability to explain.
That is an interesting twist. And let's have a look at those other things that we're wanting to show you, these maps, these X-rays. What are we seeing here? This is US Navy's 5th Fleet, headquarters in Bahrain. So what exactly does all this?
Namaste, Jai Hind, Vande Mataram. You're tuned into The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narasimhan. Viewers, it's entering into day 5, this Middle East conflict, and slowly the tide seems to be turning. The Americans, the Israelis are now claiming an upper hand, and the number of missiles that are being sent by the Iranians are perhaps on the wane. Somewhere one gets the sense that there will be a sudden shift slowly over the next few days, where the Iranians will now be pressed to try and up the intensity. Tom Cooper has been with us right through. He is this evening too. But more importantly, as long as they maintain that chokehold on the strategic Strait of Hormuz, a crucial global oil route that's been effectively closed as Iran restricts shipping, driving oil prices sharply higher and rattling markets worldwide, civilians have borne a heavy toll. Attacks by Iranian proxies, including the Hezbollah in Lebanon, have widened the conflict zone, which strikes into northern Israel and cross-border responses. U.S. forces have also suffered casualties, including the loss of 6 service members in regional operations. Leaders in Washington and Tel Aviv have signaled the fight is far from over, with U.S. officials publicly warning of harder hits to come and projecting that the campaign could stretch into weeks or perhaps longer, while Tehran vows continued resistance and defiance. Now, here are the top lines at this hour. Let's get a quick check. Most importantly, it's come from the Secretary of Defense. Hegg said, yesterday in the Indian Ocean, an American submarine sank an Iranian ship, is what he has said, and said that we thought it was safe in international waters to do it. They believe they have brought down the Soleimani, the Iris Dana, which is perhaps one of the key ships in the Iranian Naval Brigade. The Americans have confirmed it was their submarine that brought it down. Again, multiple strikes jolted Tehran as US and Israeli forces crippled different parts of Tehran, and they were targeted by US-Israeli forces. Israel uses precision bombs to target Iranian defenses, and they are actually claiming it's only a matter of hours, or if not 1 or 2 days, before US-Israel jointly control the Iranian airspace totally. Now, meanwhile, the funeral ceremony for Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in Tehran's Mashhad prayer hall has actually been postponed amid targeted strikes across Tehran, and that itself shows Iran's vulnerability, or perhaps the growing vulnerability. Meanwhile, the Clerical Assembly of Experts has reportedly chosen Mujtaba Khamenei. It's again a departure from the norm. They have elected somebody from the same dynasty. So they followed the dynastic line, which they don't do. Son of the late Ali Khamenei as the next supreme leader, were given to understand under reported pressure from the Revolutionary Guards. Israel, meanwhile, also claims yet another big success. They're targeting the Basij head top-level command and also the IRGC command. They say they have eliminated Rahman Makdam, head of the IRGC's Special Operations Department and the main man reportedly behind the assassination attempt on Donald Trump before the 2024 US elections. Also, Saudi Arabia. Now, this is the oil and energy crisis. If there is Qatar Energy that is holding back its production and shutting itself down, Saudi Arabia-run Aramco's Ras Tanura loading terminal and refinery complex has been targeted again by an Iranian drone. So the Iranians coming out and trying to say, we're going to hit those who are trying to hurt us where it hurts them. So, so Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, their entire oil rigs and of course their oil pipelines, the LNG pipelines, facilities are being targeted. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi has accused US President Donald Trump of treating nuclear talks to avert a war as a real estate transaction, and accused him of betraying quote-unquote diplomacy and the Americans who elected him. Iran's foreign ministry has warned European countries against sliding towards historical Nazi mindsets by supporting Israel and US. But is Iran fast losing friends is another question that looms large. Also, the Trump administration will host top US defense contractors at the White House on the 6th of March to press for faster weapons production as the Pentagon moves to rebuild stockpiles drained by recent strikes on Iran and, of course, other military operations. Meanwhile, there is more. The IDF has issued an urgent evacuation warning to residents of southern Lebanon, stating that Hezbollah's activities are forcing the Israeli military to operate in the area. So there's much more to share. As we've got you the top lines, we'll also now get you some of the breaking news. Peter Hegseth, and let's try and put it what he's very clearly come out and said. He has confirmed that it is, of course, the Americans and an American sub that actually brought down in the Indian Ocean the Iranian warship, which they call the Soleimani. But It's also codenamed or flagged the Iris Dana. This is the frigate, very key ship among the Iranian Navy, and they say that it was safe to bring it down in international waters, and that's what we have done. Listen.
Ship, the Soleimani. Looks like POTUS got him twice. In the Indian Ocean, and we'll play it on the screen there, an American submarine sunk an Iranian warship that thought it was safe in international waters. Instead, it was sunk by a torpedo. Quiet death. The first sinking of an enemy ship by a torpedo since World War II.
Wait, that claim by Peter Hegseth brought about a chuckle from Tom Cooper, who's sitting right next to us. So we'll ask him, military historian, why was that chuckle? Because you're saying he's really clueless. He's the US Secretary of Defense and you're saying he's clueless. Lieutenant General D.B. Pandey, Yasmin Madar, also with us, along with Dr. Ranganathan. My namaste and good evening to all of you. Yes, Tom Cooper, why do you think he's clueless?
Because if at all the first such sinking would have been that of the Argentine cruiser Belgrano by the Royal Navy submarine Conqueror during the Falklands War in 1982. The submarine fired 2 or 3 torpedoes, and 2 of these have hit and sunk the cruiser with a loss of 300 something of her crew. So when he is now explaining this is the first sinking by a torpedo since the World War II.
First sinking by a torpedo by an American ship, perhaps. He forgot that and then he just jumped into...
You know how it is. Trump government always, we are the first, they're the greatest, and then so yeah.
Yes, it is. But kudos to the Sri Lankan Navy. They've been able to save at least 32 because that ship sent out a distress call between 5:08 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. this morning. In fact, we have come for confirmation that even the Indian Air Force had sent out planes, the armed forces sent out planes to just have a look at what's going on. But the Sri Lankan Navy first responders, nearly 100 are feared dead, but at least 30 odd have been rescued by the Sri Lankan Navy. Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, Yasmin Madar also, and Dr. Ranganathan with us. But Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, some of these claims by the Americans, do they sound too tall? Do they get their facts wrong? Or should we just skim that and read between the lines and to see what is it that their strategy is, the way they are pounding Tehran?
So I thank you, firstly, Anand. Happy Holi to you and to all my panelists, even Tom Cooper. Tom Cooper, hats off to you, the way you have been captured there by News 18 studio, and he's been able to bear on. I think he's fighting the real war. So, yeah. Anand,
that was brutal on us.
No,
we've treated him fairly. And Tom can say that. We've treated him fairly.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you guys do. There's no doubt. I think possibly the best channel. Okay, coming to this very serious business, firstly, I don't think the Americans are making any wrong claims. They are making absolutely right claims, but yes, they are only giving the claims of what they are achieving and succeeding, and this is very, very clear because there are certain mission objectives they had set, and they are going as per the sequence, and this is very logical for any operations to happen. Firstly, you need to seize the air control, and that I think they have been able to effectively do. Please understand that Indians have to also start understanding that taking air control is not very, very easy. In spite of a very rudimentary air force which they have, but a great, not even a very great AD system which Iranians have, it has taken Americans and Israelis, the number one military force in the world, which is by far number one, and then Israelis joined together have still not been able to take full control of airspace. So I think that is one thing which they wanted to achieve, they have been able to achieve. Maybe another day or two, I think they will be flying in like anything without any this thing. The second which they wanted to do, and which is very critical, was ballistic missiles, in which I don't think they were looking more at missiles, but they were looking at the launchers and the command and control thing. Right. And I believe what I can make out what is happening, and when I'm watching this thing, virtually they have been able to cripple, but yet a remnant, I think about 30-40% missile launchers continue to remain, because they are the ones who are going to come out and fire, which is the most worrying thing till now. I think The day they are able to take control of the ballistic missile launchers, thereafter it will come to actually the third level, in which a proxy war element or IRGC passage element which required to be controlled. But other part, I think, which is also very important, but that is not so important, was nuclear enrichment or enriched nuclear capacity, because that truly was not of a concern to Americans. It was surely a concern for the Israelis, but not for Americans. That also, I think, they have been able to degrade
interestingly, we'll come to what Hegseth said about the airspace, but Navy. See, one of the things Trump has been consistent about, he may vary about other things, he said we want to take down their Navy. Now, how critical is that with respect to the Strait of Hormuz? We will try and, get to that in a bit, and we'll speak with Yasmin also once I just share Yasmin also. Once we just share what Hegseth said about the airspace. He said that soon US and Israel will have complete control of Iran airspace. Iran can no longer shoot the volume of missiles they once did, even not close. Let's listen to what he had to say.
The two most powerful air forces in the world will have complete control of Iranian skies, uncontested airspace. I hope all the folks watching understand what uncontested airspace and complete control means. It means we will fly all day, all night, day and night, finding, fixing, and finishing the missiles and defense industrial base of the Iranian military, finding and fixing their leaders and their military leaders.
Okay, right. Okay, what we've done is we've just got Tom right here on the board. Yes. Now, what does this mean if they have complete control of the Iranian airspace? What does that mean, Tom?
Okay. Yeah. I'm still not buying that they have total, complete,
they are saying very soon they will.
But they say that in that regard. So what this means? It means that they have gradually destroyed the air defense system or subsystem in the Tabriz area, another in Shiraz and Esfahan areas, another two, and the one protecting Khorramabad Karaj area. So now this means, just a second, that they are moving, and this was confirmed by a report from this morning, that an Israeli F-35 has shot down an Iranian Yak-130. Okay. This is actually a training jet in the Tehran area. So yesterday we have heard that they are heavily striking Karaj area, west of Tehran.
Correct.
Which means they have probably neutralized Iranian air defenses in this area, forced them survivors to withdraw to Tehran, towards Tehran or even east of it.
Right.
And now they are trying to do the same. One of the US admirals has explained that we are through in the south, we are moving in, which means they have probably suppressed the air defenses in this area and are trying now to operate deeper over Iran. Possibly, not probably, via Pakistani airspace as well.
Okay. The Iranians have also said that Pakistan is offering their air bases, and the Americans are moving in from Pakistan.
IRGC has claimed that Pakistan is letting both American and Israeli aircraft. It's probably just American aircraft because Israel has no point in flying all the way around or something over Pakistan.
Right. So the Israeli aircraft will now fly over the Syrian airspace and the Iraqi airspace and then keep entering from this direction. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, Israeli aircraft are still flying their usual route over Syria and northern Iraq, over Jordan, towards Iran. That is less of a problem. This is just the usual story with US tanker aircraft in this area. This is a joint of Syrian and Iraqi border. Refuel and then go into Iran, over western Iran.
Right. Now, General Pandey, just quickly before we bring in Dr. Ranganathan and also Yasmin, the moment there is air superiority and dominance all over Iran, then does that mean that Iran then loses this 30-40% remaining capacity to fire its launchers? What they have is those 3.5-ton trucks, which the Israelis are also watching and taking out. There were some 3 or 4 videos of such trucks which could be carrying these mobile missile launchers all across Iran from where they could launch at will. Do you think now, if they are moving in from the west, they also are moving in from the south, the Iranians will now be pummeled far more than what they have been now, and it makes things much more difficult for them?
Yeah, so I'll just a little bit disagree, which I don't want to do because Tom Cooper is the expert. Please understand this thing that in Lion Rise, virtually in about 8 days, Israelis, without the assistance of the Americans, were able to take control of the air in Iranian space and more towards the western side because that is where they meant business.
Yeah.
Right? That is where they wanted to neutralize. If you look at all their nuclear sites and the ballistic missile sites, they are all concentrated towards the western side.
Right.
The southern side were technically out of reach of the Israelis in spite of all the resistance. So they were able to seize control, and that is why Midnight Hammer happened. So without any problem, they were able to suppress it. Second is not only by fires they're getting it, they are also getting it through a lot of electronic warfare system which they suppress, they use also from
Massive
inside.
volumes.
The second is why they have gone from the southern side this time. The Americans are going from southern side is because they want to control the Hormuz, anything which is flying over, which is likely to difficult.
Exactly.
The naval ships, the naval bases, all the midget submarines, they are going to actually ensure that the so-called fear of the world that Hormuz is going to be blocked is going to be taken out. Right? And very interesting, Anand, which Tom should also maybe talk about. Houthis have not involved.
Yeah.
Houthis have got totally bought. You see, they were the most important edge of the proxy. Houthis have not fired for last 8 months. They have been bought off. There cannot be a major shift in this thing. But yet, don't give in to Iranians. Iranians have understood the lesson. They got tunnels. And if you have taken any experience from the Hamas, they got kilometers and kilometers of tunnel in which AD will reside. But then, when you're going for a war and an operation, I think the Americans and the Israelis understand they are going to take some sort of a casualty and flag. But till now, on the Iranian space, they have not taken a casualty, and that's credit to them.
Right. We're going to get inside the war room with Tom Cooper and General Pandey by 7:30, just in about 15-20 minutes from now. So we'll keep the Strait of Hormuz conversation till then. Tom, come back on. Let me ask Yasemin. Yasemin, what's your thought? What do you think is going to happen going forward? What do you think is going to happen? Do you see certain protests coming out in the coming days out on the streets? Because one of the biggest things is if there's going to be a change from within, people will have to start coming out. So what is your network of Persians all across the world saying? You're on mute, Yasemin.
Very difficult to predict. One thing we can say is that the fact that Iran has lasted so many days in terms of its air force is actually surprising, given that two of the largest air forces in the world were attacking it.
Right.
In terms of the population, I can't see any sign. People are angry, but now their anger is no longer with the government because the government is weak now. Their anger now is with the invader. It's inevitable. When you go to a war situation, people become patriotic, even if they don't like their own government. And what happens then is much more difficult to predict. We are seeing the reverse of what we were seeing in January. The larger crowd are for the government, not against it. Or if they're not even for the government, they are for nationalism. They are against the attack.
The invader.
The invader. And in a way, I thought that's why the US didn't intervene in January, because they knew if they intervened, it would reverse the protest. But for whatever reasons, they've decided to go now. So I can't see protests being strong enough to confront this huge crowd, whether we like it or not. The government can master large crowds. What they will need is troops on the ground. And here for the US, there is a problem. I see the CIA is advertising recruitment of Kurdish forces. Again, that's more problematic. There will be Kurds who will volunteer. Maybe there are Kurdish organizations already in the pay of Pentagon. One or two of them we know. But it's going to be enough. I mean, even within Kurdistan, there will be conflict. There will be those who don't want this.
Right.
So it's going to be very difficult to predict. I would say it depends on how badly the regime is defeated or how they react to defeat. These are all different scenarios.
Yeah, there are, and you've laid them out quite well, because if there has got to be an outpouring on the streets, then the bombs from the skies have to stop, because otherwise they would consume these protesters as well. Dr. Ranganathan, you think the tide is turning over the next 2 or 3 days? You would see far more inroads being made by Epic Fury.
Good evening, Anand, and good evening to my fellow panelists. By the way, the Austrian embassy has complained about CNN because you're holding an Austrian hostage there. So there is another conflict that's starting. So please be very careful. I just thought I'll warn you. 3 things. Number one.
See, he just said the wife is complaining. He didn't say about himself though. Anyway, go ahead, please. Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right about the success of the military operation of Operation Epic Fury. I think within a matter of days, they are, both Israel and America, and anybody else who wants to join in, is going to have complete control over the Iranian skies, and it will be complete monopolizing any military action over Iran. But there comes the problem. If the regime does not switch, or if the regime does not go away, this present dictatorial regime, then this augurs tremendous problem for America. Let me take you back to the Gulf War. In 1990, within a matter of a month, the Americans and the coalition allies had complete control over the airspace of Iraq. But did they materialize a regime change? No. For the next 15 years, you had Saddam Hussein, who was even more brutal than he was before the Gulf War. And therein lies the problem. The fact is, if the regime does not change, you will have increasingly a lot of collateral damage. You already saw how people are amplifying within America the terrible accident that happened in the school where 160 odd girls were killed. Now, slowly, that's going to happen and mirror what happened in Gaza. I mean, initially, the genocide was perpetrated against Israel. But then as Israel took, defended itself and, basically took revenge for what had happened, the narrative completely shifted against Israel. And that is what's going to happen. Israel can withstand it. Other nations can withstand it. I don't think Trump will be able to withstand it, because already there are voices that are coming up that the entire thing was basically orchestrated to keep the Epstein's files in the background. So I think the narrative out here is not so much military, it is on the media as well.
Well, see, one of the things that came out, yes, General Pandey, is the fact that Trump was coaxed into action because 88 of these people were coming down under one convention center, and if there was a chance to get them, this was it. That's what the Israelis told them, confirmed intelligence, and they got the Khamenei on the first night. So they've got the big guy, they've got the big villain, the biggest of them all, the one who was orchestrating it all. They've got it. But what do they do next? The other thing is, now they've got to make sure that they don't come back. They don't strike back. There is no 9/11. There is no repercussion in the next 6-8 months or even the next 2 years. And how do they do it in such a way that they puncture this regime altogether? It's not that easy. And when you wade into something like this, you want it to be short and sharp. And things are different from the 90s to now. The whole dynamics of war has changed. The whole dynamics of getting into a nation, engineering a regime change or neutralizing perhaps a perceived terrorist or terror to the world has changed. The dynamics have changed today. Yes, General Pandey, and then we'll get into the Strait of Hormuz conversation. So we'll walk back with Tom there. But yes, General Pandey, please make your point. Yeah.
Look, what happens, I am absolutely apprehensive of going against Dr. Anand, because he's far more knowledgeable and way beyond, and he's very articulate. But please understand, don't ever think that this is Trump's war. This is the war of US. There's a deep state. There's a strategic orientation. These people are much more smart. I'll just try and tell you, please just look back a little bit. You know, same ISIS Julani, who was having $10 million worth of thing on his head, became the toast of Americans in the Western powers. And Saeed was that Syrian guy was taken out. When you look at all that, and then when Operation Lion Rise happened, Midnight happened, when you're looking at the flight path, which everybody was saying that you can't go over us, and therefore now the flying is taking place over Syria and Iraq, which is friendly environment now. You know, the whole set, it was, this war has not happened just because Trump turned around and said, oh, I have now come here and I'm going to fight a war. This is a planned operation over last 2 years.
Yes.
Right? There is a reason why it is happening. The political objective of Americans is to seize space which had lost to the Chinese, and we can talk about it later. But coming exactly to Iran's point, in Iraq, do you think they did not know that within it will take them time to take over control? Don't you think that they knew that with Libya experience is going to take time to resolve this issue? They are far more easier to handle than Iran, where there's a layered political, not political, religious, political, military enmeshment which has taken place. You just can't remove the regime. And they also know that they did not have allies on ground. You cannot have unarmed people rising against a very, very harsh environment. But yet they have gone. The disturbance in the region is okay. But with Ayatollah gone, with those 80 clerics gone, with the next set of people gone, they're trickling down. And as long as there's a chaos, there's no structured people who are targeting the Americans, Israelis, and also allying with the Chinese in the sense of selling the, giving the space. I think they are pretty okay as long as the region is in chaos. They are pretty happy. Right?
No, it's not about chaos. But the point is, and that's something which Tom Cooper keeps saying, that once they go guerrilla, there is no answering, or there's no way they can handle it. Now let's come back to the Strait of Hormuz conversation. Yes, Tom. Just quickly calling up this graphic out here to show the kind of traffic that we are seeing. Have a look at the marine traffic through the Strait of Hormuz between the 28th of February 2026 and 3rd March 2026. So this is 28th of February 2026. This is the kind of activity that we are seeing on the Strait of Hormuz.
Northern line is inboard, southern line is outbound.
Outbound. So the outbound traffic is quite heavy. The northern line is the inbound traffic. But the moment we flip this and we look at it as far as the 3rd of March, so let's look at the 3rd of March. And this is the 1st of March. So it's becoming slowly, they're starting to congregate.
And
there is a traffic.
Ever more ships stopping here and not moving in or out.
Not moving in or out because the traffic jam is slowly starting.
No, because obviously somebody there has already signaled, guys, don't go in, don't go out.
Don't go in, yeah. And then let's move to the next one, 2nd March. It's getting thinner and the clusters are becoming more.
Ever less traffic here foremost. That is most remarkable. And you see just a few relatively small ships. Okay, there are some others as well, but generally the traffic jam is building up.
Building up. See, they're also hanging around here, not moving on further. 2nd March, 3rd March, finally
out.
Wow, absolutely gone. You know, reduced. Quite literally reduced. Now, this is the current scenario till the 3rd of March, viewers. Let's try and understand from Tom and with our experts what is going to take to take control of the Strait of Hormuz away from Iran. So, if these countries here, along with the US, want to dominate the Strait of Hormuz, what do they need to do?
Now it's going to get a little bit ironic. Ironic because the Americans are essentially going to apply the same strategy like the British were applying over Iraq in the 1920s, so-called air policies. That means they're going to patrol the skies over Iran and constantly monitor what is going on the ground and try to intercept any kind of a threat for international shipping here around. In what sense? Any kind of trucks that might be carrying UAVs, any kind of trucks that might be carrying missiles, any kind of combatants that might try to take any kind of action in this area. They're also going to be carefully watching what is going on in all the ports around the Iranian coast, because, for example, one of liquid natural gas carriers yesterday was blown up by a remotely controlled speedboat.
Speedboat, yeah.
Launched from Iran. We must expect similar situation in the coming days. Meanwhile, U.S. Navy is going to try to collect as many ships as possible and then deploy them into the Persian Gulf in order to secure the area from any kind of threats. They are going to deploy mine-hunting helicopters, mine-hunting vessels, and so on. This is going to take 1-2 weeks at least until they have something like semblance of enough warships in order to have permanent presence and escort the tankers in and out.
All right. On that note, let's just call in the war room here. We are like inside the war room with Tom Cooper here on the right stand.
Devastation, a direct hit by a missile.
Picture is that the US is not able to defend.
Of a drone of massive, the number of ballistic missiles.
Where is it that Iran is actually placing its resources right now?
Tabriz, Sanandaj, Kermanshah. And this is now what they are doing since yesterday. They are conducting more or less an organized.
US bases have been targeted. Drone has been shot down now.
Iran can then threaten or attack enemy nationals.
A massive missile and drone attack over here.
Iran now has been completely, in some ways, dominated.
With ballistic missile attack. It means the Kuwaiti air defense was under big strain.
That's what we did. We just got inside the war room with Tom Cooper, even as we are trying to discuss the Strait of Hormuz and how the US can take control. So one of the things, General Pandey is also with us. General Pandey, do weigh in. That's the reason why the South was important for the Americans. That's why they said we are now going to control the skies from the South.
Southern Iran.
Yeah.
Before moving in.
Yes. So it's easier for them to move in. And perhaps that's why, General Pandey, the Iranians have damaged the US bases here.
Yes, they were targeting the US bases in order to prevent them from using this. But with the weakening of Iranian capability to continue striking these bases, there is a growing likelihood at least that Americans are going to return to these bases and use them again.
And then they also have their aircraft carriers which can continue to be used. Yes, General Pandey. 2 weeks to take control of the Strait of Hormuz or lesser? Ji.
I'll just firstly, one point I will just say that, look, in Iran, instead of concentrating its effort on one place, has dissipated its effort, right? Unfortunately. And the second thing, what it has done, that the Gulf, which would have not proactively participated in this operation, will now operate. So these are my predictions. So when you say that the strikes have taken place on American bases, doesn't mean that American bases have withered, destroyed, there's nothing left on the ground, parking, runways, everything has gone diminished. You know, when a runway goes off, it just takes a couple of hours to actually repair it. It's not like what India did to Noor Ali Khan base, that it will take about 8-9 months or a year to come back, right? So they have not been able to do. So one thing which time and again people are talking, that the bases have been destroyed. Yes, one building went, one radar, $1.1 billion in XYZ places gone. I agree, these are diminishing this thing. But that radar is not the only one which is functioning. There are a large number of array of systems are deployed. Right. So let's put one thing aside. The second thing which was being talked of extremely high was the fast attack boats of Iranians.
Yeah, the speedboats,
midget submarines, their unarmed systems, their mine link capabilities, which was the most important leverage. Don't come to us, we'll block Hormuz. Now, when you have been announcing this leverage time and again, I'm sure these guys who are planning in America or Israel, not Israel, Israelis are not worried about it. Americans are.
Yeah.
They will take necessary discussions that how we need to ensure that this doesn't happen. When you put in, why do you think that Lincoln was parked in there?
Yeah.
Lincoln was not only parked for looking after the southern eastern part or the western part of Israel. He was Iran. They were mostly focused on Hormuz. They were looking at the southern part, and their entire capability and capacity is now focused, and that is what they're getting after the Navy. They are getting after the Iranian Navy, and they are going to sort out Navy like anything. I believe they have taken out about 17 to 18 ships.
Yeah.
Eventually, when they will seize control of the mountains, which Tom, I'll request you to point, the hills and the mountains above Hormuz and Iranian.
The Bandar Abbas, and just behind that you have this entire.
Bandar Abbas is here.
Yeah, no, I'm talking
the
about
mountains.
mountains.
Oh, sorry.
Port
of Bandar Abbas is here, and the mountains are here along.
This is
correct. So they will once they will start looking at these mountains and they will start controlling Bandar Abbas, the entire thing. You will find the shift happening in this whole flow of oil, which will start coming. Now, one addition part which you have not taken care of. Iran is not thought. Now the Gulf countries are going to weigh in because eventually whose oil is affected, whose peace is affected. Now Iranians, all the Gulf countries will also secure this side. What is happening is that Iran was able to fire anything which was low end, covering about 100 kilometers worth of this thing, put fire inside. Now, as these things, eventually what will happen is the Gulf countries will take control of the southern side of Hormuz.
This attacking of the Navy, we've just got fresh visuals, so I'm interrupting. Let's have a look at this. This is what Hegseth had confirmed. This is the Iranian frigate Soleimani, or the Iris Dena, being blown up by a torpedo strike, and these are the first visuals that have come. First visuals that it's an American submarine that from below has then blown this up. We're just calling up these here. You have a look at these pictures, viewers. There you go. That's it. It's playing on loop, unclassified, but these are the pictures. Yes, Tom.
So what you can see is the ship, is the front, is the rear, is the bridge, and the mast.
So the hull is what they said that the hull breach happened. Yeah.
It is very quickly over. The torpedo has hit the rear of the ship. Goes to, you see it here?
Yes.
Goes to massive detonation. Then there is a fire. And then a second torpedo strikes, and that's it. The ship is actually finished.
Ship is gone. It's at the bottom of the ship.
This is a relatively small vessel.
This is a relative. It's a frigate. That's what they said. It's a frigate that that's been downed.
Relatively, it is. You see that the entire rear stern of the ship is flying above the sea surface.
Okay.
So it's actually a miracle anybody survived from this strike.
Right. Now, so clearly they are now trying to take down the. I'm just going to hand the phone back. They take down the Navy altogether and weaken the Navy. So the moment the Navy is weaker, there is no cover fire here.
Iranian Navy is basically finished.
It's finished.
There is a question: what happened with kilo submarines, because they have 3 and they're extremely dangerous. I haven't seen any kind of reports or visual confirmation that they have been disabled, although there are reports that they have been hit.
Right.
That's the first question. The second question are these midget submarines, which could still go out and strike. What I expect that IGC is going to do instead is to use remotely controlled speedboats.
So remotely controlled speedboats. Let's now just quickly change tack. We've got the pictures here, exclusive. First up here on CNN News 18, inside the war room with Tom Cooper. We've got these pictures of the frigate being blown up. Confirmation coming in from the U.S. Secretary Defense Hegseth in his press conference that we are the ones who blew this up. The Sri Lankan Navy came into, because there was a distress call, they came in to help. This was international waters and they rescued about 32 people, but more than 100 are feared dead. And it's all happening in an instant. See, within seconds, the big torpedo, hull breach, and at the rear of the ship, massive explosion. Second one, those are the pictures that we have, the exclusive pictures here. I'm going to shift focus because there's another big conversation that we need to have on what is happening towards the western side.
India. This is crucial for India.
This is crucial for India. Why do you say this is crucial for India?
Because for India it's of crucial importance that now the Strait of Hormuz is soon going to be open for traffic. as soon as possible. How long is it going to take? That depends on how fast are the Americans capable of bringing their navy, or the Trump government is capable of convincing local governments to do this on their own.
So is it possible that there could be a caravan, there could be a huge convoy of naval ships of the Gulf countries along with the US naval carriers and air cover from the top, escorting all these ships which are now huddled here on either side and allowing them passage while telling the Iranians to back off? Is that possible? Because then that means that they are all going to be able to come into port and there is a certain sense of security that is given.
It is at least very likely that something very similar is going to happen. I do not expect now necessarily a big convoy or something of that kind, but there will be warships taking stations. For example, like here, one is patrolling here, another is patrolling here, another here. And then they are going to let
all the ships go through a narrow channel.
Move out, and the others, move in.
Move in,
yes.
So that's what they're going to facilitate. So, but this itself is going to take at least 10 days, if not more, because it's not easy to mobilize, or the sooner they neutralize the entire Iranian defense, air defense from here, then there will be absolute air dominance. Now, the other point, if you're just going to take this out, and let's move towards the west and talk about these entities and the city of Tabriz. Why is the city of Tabriz and this region more important? Let's try and understand, viewers, and focus on Tabriz in Iran. Now, it's believed to host ballistic missiles and also a defense installation facilities. That's Tabriz. But it is also one of the cities which believe that till the time that doesn't fall, the regime continues to exist. Why do you say that, Tom?
It is a little bit hard to explain, but whether it's accident or not, unless the merchants, local people from Tabriz start protesting against the government, it is simply so that the government is not going to, in Tehran, is not going to fall. We have seen again and again and again the protesting in Iran since, for example, 2009, 2010. Everywhere, the people were protesting everywhere. Now in December, in January, they're protesting Mashhad, which is meanwhile the second biggest city in Iran.
This is where they're planning to do the, burial of the Khamenei.
Yes.
Yes.
We have seen protesting in Tehran, in Qom, holy city, center of the Shia clergy, in Esfahan, in Koramabad, Sanandaj, where else? Shiraz. I remember also Bandar Abbas and Bushehr down here. So there was everywhere protesting, except in Tabriz area.
Yeah.
So in 1979, the things started changing. It was very similar to now, and it was even similar in regards of the casualties of victims of the regime. Back then, the Shah regime opened fire, killed protesters. There are videos showing them moving people down, really like with a broom, just with machine guns.
Right.
But then there was protesting in Tabriz, and with this, there was protesting in Tabriz, and with then the Shah was finished. He has packed his luggage and traveled out.
So the moment there are protests in Tabriz, then the Shah, even in the past we've seen that the regime or whatever is the government in Iran falls. That's the history behind Tabriz and the importance as per Tom Cooper. Even as we have these pictures right behind us, the big visuals of the frigate being blown up. General Pandey, on the one hand, the Navy is being weakened. On the other hand, there are the Kurds who are being engaged in that very region to enter that region of Tabriz from perhaps Iraq and that region. There is also a certain level of Kurdish dominance. Do you think there is a concentrated strategy that is now evolving to totally destabilize not just the regime, but also the control of the IRGC? General Pandey.
Yeah, so, there is a challenge of the contradiction of supporting the Kurds on the ground is that the entire region, when you say not only Iran, the neighboring environment will go under some sort of a problem. And that is where the contradiction comes. The moment you support the Kurds, the hardline Iranians who are patriotic, they may be with the regime, may not with the regime, it becomes slightly more challenging. But I feel that the day Khamenei gets buried, right? And the second is, as the time will go away from the death of the girl students who got hit. And maybe the narrative may turn out to be a little changing narrative or accepting the fault, or at least blaming the IRGC or the Iranian leadership for the death of the girls. As long these two things will happen, you'll find the shift taking place. And eventually, what was Tabriz about 10 years back and what is today, there's again a shift even in Tabriz, because eventually the sanctions today have started hurting the entire IRGC, which runs the economic, they've got a huge amount of economic investment and control. And the merchants are also technically part of this whole game plan. So I have a feeling, and this is what I think the Americans also would be looking at, bomb the center, bomb the hardcore areas, but start rolling up from the sides as well, right? And while these 31 units which have gone out into the remote areas, which the foreign minister was saying they're going to be operating on their own, but eventually when you have this air cover and you're looking at anybody who moves out and gets shot at, and when they'll see that, okay, nuclear ambition gone, the top leadership gone, and oh, by the way, the Hormuz, which was our leverage, is now being opened up with the joint effort of the Gulf and the Americans. They are going to change turn. After all, ideology is very, very important. Radical ideology is more important. But money plays a role. And I just told you that Houthis have not yet fired a single shot.
Right.
Very straight.
Tom.
Right.
Tom.
Let me explain you a little bit how that with Tabriz works. We have the merchants.
Yeah.
That is one group.
Yeah.
Then we have telecommunications, so banks and insurances.
Okay.
Then we have telecommunications, as I said, we have real estate, we have construction business.
Okay.
Each of these groups, each of these sectors of the economy is controlled by one group of the IGC.
Right.
So, now the question is who is pro what and who is loyal to whom?
Right.
And what do they consider as their outlooks if there is a regime change?
Right.
So, if there appears somebody who can tell them, okay, you are going to remain relevant, they're going to say, oh, thank you very much, IGC, go back from wherever you came, and are going to turn against it.
Right.
But if not, then not. And this is now the problem. The US allies in northern Iraq are foremost PKK, which is actually a quasi-Maoist terrorist organization from Turkey, of Turkish Kurds, not from Syria or from Iraq. And it's outshot, or some kind of ally, Pajak, which is actually Iranian offshot, offshot of PKK. And they are, well, they are turncoats, most of all. So expecting from them now to go to liberating Tabriz, excuse me, this is...
It's a little far-fetched is what Tom Cooper is saying. The PKK, the MEK, what are they going to do? We'll talk about that. What's China doing? Where is the Chinese social media machinery that was active in Operation Sindoor? These are all questions that remain. But you've got to stay with us here in the War Room for us to break that down. And we'll do that in the coming days. But for the moment, you see those pictures on your screens, viewers? That frigate has gone up, kaboom, like that. That means the American submarines are also wading into the waters. So if the Iranians have mini subs, do they have the tech to counter perhaps the most powerful naval force in the world, who are there to try and free up the Strait of Hormuz? And that's where it is. The moment the Strait of Hormuz is under the American or the Ally control on this side, and the Gulf nations weave a sigh of relief, that means things are going to change and the shape of this war itself will change. Agree, disagree, Tom Cooper, that till the time the Iranians hold that jugular, they'll think that they're still in the hunt. The moment this jugular is released.
It's like this, and if it comes out like this, then things are going to change.
That things are going to change. Well, that's where it is. That's all we have time for in this edition. General Pandey, Tom Cooper, pleasure as always. Stay with us. The coverage continues.
a super exclusive ground report by CNN News 18's Sanjay Suri from Tel Aviv. Rifat Abdullah, who's currently stationed in Jerusalem.
Here goes the siren again. A ballistic missile detected on its way here. Probably a good time to step into a shelter.
अभी जो यहाँ पे सायरन बजी है उसके बाद धमाके जोरदार हुए या तो इंटरसेप्ट किया गया मिसाइल्स को जो लगातार ईरान की तरफ से अटैक किया जा रहा
to try and put pressure on, in fact, the Israelis and the Americans. You've got more updates.
Which are coming in. Fresh Iran strikes on the Saudi Aramco refinery, ladies and gentlemen. Oil refinery site has been targeted once again. The second strike on the refinery in the last 3 days. This will send shockwaves across the energy markets once again as the oil infrastructure in Saudi Arabia has been targeted. But another big news that's coming in.
We don't have pictures of that.
Right.
We don't have pictures.
We'll try to get those, Rahul will try to get those visuals. But this is the big update that's coming in the neighborhood. In our neighborhood, big updates which are coming in. A submarine attack on an Iranian ship is what we are learning. An Iranian ship was targeted near the Sri Lankan coast. And the Lankan Navy has launched rescue operations. 35 people have been rescued. Over 60 are missing. This Iranian ship had 180 crew on board. So a submarine attack on an Iranian ship near the coast of Sri Lanka. So this is entering our theater as well.
What's going on? I mean, who are these people? Was this just a normal cargo vessel belonging to an Iranian carrier? What was it doing by Sri Lanka? What's happening here, Tom Cooper? What do you think is happening? Why are the Iranians fishing in Sri Lankan waters?
I'm trying to set up the map so I can show you.
That's way off.
Sri Lanka is down here.
Yes, Sri Lanka is down here.
Every ship of every possible nation has the right to travel along the sea. That's not a problem.
True.
So the question is now who has attacked this ship?
And what was it carrying? Was it carrying material from China?
I don't know.
We don't know
the name of the ship or something
else. Do we
else.
have any details?
Right, we'll try to get some more details, but these are the updates which are coming in. But it's very interesting to see that the Naval Force of the Revolutionary Guard has destroyed the American strategic radar FPS-132 in West Asia in Qatar. This has happened at dawn today. So we can see an escalation of the operations in that region. But it's very concerning if these operations are also spreading over to the Indian Ocean.
So do we know?
They're claiming the destruction of this radar since the first day. And now there are satellite photographs confirming that it was hit. Whether it was destroyed is a different story.
Actually, let's pull out those photographs, those satellite photographs that we have been showing our viewers. Those are the X-rays, really, of those strikes. So then we can tell you exactly what has happened, how much damage has been caused. So let's pull that out, Director Saab, and put it on the wall behind me. But in the meantime, I just want to ask you this. What and who has targeted this Iranian vessel? Do we know?
Who's targeted? Given the situation in the Middle East, is something that will send alarm across the Indian intelligence as well as security.
It's now also freeing Iran to retaliate in fashion. And it still has submarines.
This Iranian ship had 180 crew on board, 35 people have been rescued. The Lankan Navy has launched those rescue operations. We'll get more details as more and more updates coming in on this.
I've been reading about that, but there's such little clarity on what went down there, because why would somebody target a vessel with 180 people? What kind of vessel would carry 180 people?
Normal cargo ships don't normal merchant ship would have a crew of 20, 40 people, not more.
Yeah.
So why are there suddenly 180, 200 Iranians on board?
But could there be stealth operations underway from the US and Israeli forces?
Of course it could be,
especially USA front in this area?
Especially USA. I'm not entirely sure if Israeli submarines can reach this far because they are not nuclear propelled. But
in any case, where would they have come from? They would have had to come through here, I suppose.
No, Iranian ship from here.
No, the Israeli ships.
Israeli ship would actually have to travel around the entire, at least in order to remain undetected, around entire Africa. It's possible to do. You can send a supply ship, refuel it underway, and so on and so on. But it is extremely exhausting for the crew, also because it would mostly have to operate in very hot waters. Which is particularly exhausting for submarine crew, because on conventionally powered submarine, the air conditioning is simply not strong enough.
And we're getting more information. This is from Al Jazeera, where bodies have been recovered from the Iranian. It's a frigate. It's not some cargo.
Frigate.
It's a frigate.
It was a warship.
It's a warship. near the Sri Lankan coast, and bodies have been recovered.
What is an Iranian warship doing
near
the waters of Sri Lanka? Is there a base that the Americans have?
I mean, that is really a good question. What was he doing over there? Because Iranian warships did make cruises up to Syria, for example, or Gulf of Aden. They're regularly here also because of piracy patrols and so on. So no question about this. But what was he doing near Sri Lanka? That is outside of my capability to explain.
That is an interesting twist. And let's have a look at those other things that we're wanting to show you, these maps, these X-rays. What are we seeing here? This is US Navy's 5th Fleet, headquarters in Bahrain. So what exactly does all this represent?
Well, this is simply Iranian retaliation strikes. They have coordinates, GPS coordinates, they enter them into the UAVs and send them away. Where the UAV then hits 2 meters to the left or to the right, nobody cares. 20 meters to the right, nobody cares.
What kind of vessels would have been here at these at the headquarters in Bahrain of the 5th Fleet?
Usually there would be a command ship of the 5th Fleet, which is a rebuilt amphibious assault vessel. So a huge ship with lots of space, lots of communication antennas on top, and all the stuff would be on board of it.
Right, that's very interesting. Now, this is the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar.
Yes.
And we are seeing some destruction there. If you look behind you, you can even see a clearer image. There it is. What are we seeing here? What's happened? What is this?
I have to zoom out myself a little bit.
Have a look behind you, Tom. You can get a better sense on what you're seeing also, because it's a clearer, less pixelated image. Yeah.
This is something I'm not sure what it is.
It's a lot of scarring on the ground.
It looks like containers or buildings that have been hit. So, but it is no hardened aircraft shelter or something of that kind.
Right. So this is maybe a communications radar or something. Could be anything.
Or headquarters as well. Yes.
And then there's the camp Arif Jan, Kuwait, and you can see some of these round things that have been punctured. What could be these? Because
that
storage.
Would be theoretically petroleum or something similar storage facility.
Yes.
Definitely some kind of storage facility because of the construction. But what exactly was there hit? That is also hard to gauge. Something was hit and something burned out.
And let's have a look at the airbase in Kuwait, because that made a lot of news. This is the Ali Al Salem Air Base in Kuwait. There's a radome, there's a satellite dish.
Good evening, you're watching Brass Tacks with me, Poonam Burde. From Tel Aviv to Tehran to the Middle East, the war is escalating. It's even spilling over into the Indian Ocean now. There are multiple locations across Iran that are being bombarded. Tehran is carrying out these retaliatory attacks across the region. It has spilled over very close to India, and that is concerning. How far and wide can this war actually go if it drags on for as long as United States President Donald Trump claims it would? It's a war that's gone beyond the traditional stakeholders. It was the Israel and United States coalition on one side, Iran on the other. Both sides are engaging ferociously. Nobody wants to let it go just yet. They're ready to drag this on for as long as their objectives are achieved. What those objectives are, how clear they are, one does not know, because there seems to be a lot of flip-flop coming in from the United States side especially. Can either sides afford to drag this on for as long as they want? Do they have the capability, both militarily and economically? That's something that we'll try and decode.
We are just getting started. We are accelerating, not decelerating. Iran's capabilities are evaporating by the hour, while American strength grows fiercer, smarter, and utterly dominant. More bombers and more fighters are arriving just today. The two most powerful air forces in the world will have complete control of Iranian skies, uncontested airspace. I hope all the folks watching understand what uncontested airspace and complete control means. It means we will fly all day, all night, day and night, finding, fixing, and finishing the missiles and defense industrial base of the Iranian military, finding and fixing their leaders and their military leaders. Yesterday, in the Indian Ocean, and we'll play it on the screen there, an American submarine sunk an Iranian warship that thought it was safe in international waters. Instead, it was sunk by a torpedo. Quiet death. The first sinking of an enemy ship by a torpedo since World War II. We sunk their prize ship, the Soleimani. Looks like POTUS got him twice.
So there is a dramatic and lethal escalation of the broadening of West Asia conflict. The Iranian Navy frigate Iris Dena was struck not too far away from Sri Lanka. It was approximately 40 nautical miles south of Galle in Sri Lanka. The incident marks the first major naval casualty of the US-Iran-Israel war, and that too far away from where the war actually is happening. This is deep in the waters of the Indian Ocean. In fact, the video has just been released and put out by the Secretary of War, by the Department of War of the United States. This is that thermal imaging video that has been released of the attack. What we have learnt here is that this is a dangerous spillover into India's primary maritime backyard. What this really means, that's something that we'll decode with our experts who join us on this broadcast. But to give you a sense of what exactly transpired, and that's something that has been confirmed by Pete Hegseth as well, that Iris Dena was transiting homeward via the standard westward route following its high-profile participation in a multinational naval exercise, including India. This happened just a few weeks ago, but it comes at a time when there are Iranian claims of a missile hit on a US Navy destroyer in the same region, which is why the timing is crucial. This sinking of the ship appears to be a direct signal to Tehran that Iranian ships are no longer safe. That is what the Secretary of War of the United States also had to say, that even on distant transit routes far away from where this is playing out in the Persian Gulf, even there Iranian assets are not safe. In fact, we are getting details of what exactly has happened, how it is that Sri Lanka is also looking at what has transpired, and I'm just going to give you a sense of how Sri Lanka is looking at this. In fact, this is a tweet that has just been put out by Namal Rajapakse, who's gone on to say that what has happened off the coast of Galle is extremely serious. Reports indicate over 100 Iranian personnel are missing in what appears to be a submarine attack just outside our waters, which is a major security concern. So it's a concern for Sri Lanka, it's a concern for India as well. If military activity of this scale is happening so close to Sri Lanka, the government cannot treat this as someone else's problem. Does this mean that there are other countries, including Sri Lanka, including India, that are getting dragged into this particular war, a war that we didn't start, a war that we have no stakes in, and the war that we don't know what really the end game of it is? Commander V.K. Jaitley, a defense expert, joins us on this broadcast. Commander Jaitley, I want to get in your input on this. You must have seen that video as well of what transpired. So first, I want to talk about exactly what happened. The kind of narrative that we're seeing from the American side, and the Secretary of War, they're going on to say that looks like United States has got Iran twice over. Is that something that should concern the Iranian side and everyone else that seems to be standing with it?
See, US and Israel, as they were saying that they have already controlled the total skies above the Iranian country. Now they want to control the ocean also, the Persian Gulf, as well as the Gulf of Oman, both, and Strait of Hormuz, which Iran said we will close it. Now, if you see, the navy of the Iran is not very strong. They have hardly around 100 ships. Submarines, definitely they have got some 20 plus submarines, but only 7 frigates, no destroyers, some corvettes, very small ships. So overall, if you see, they are no match with what US has. The 2 aircraft carriers, the biggest ones, Abraham Lincoln and Griffith. Now, keeping all these things in mind, this killing of a ship, today morning the news was they have already sunk 17 ships of the Iranian Navy, 17. Just imagine. That means almost 20% of their navy is already finished. And with this one additional, which is with their torpedo, which they say after the Second World War, the first time with torpedo they have hit a ship. I don't know how far it is true, because in India, in 71 war, we did use torpedoes very much. And Pakistani Navy also used it. So maybe US Navy for the first time, they may have used after the Second World War. That's quite possible. But fact remains that 20% of the Iranian Navy has been finished. And probably as far as their missile stocks are concerned, that has been finished more than 20% already. And now they are aiming for their manufacturing facilities also, so that they are not able to manufacture anymore. So I think it's a matter of time how far Iran can pull on. But yes, they are in a very bad shape as of now.
Now we're talking about the extent of where this is actually going, Commander, which is why I want to ask you this. You know, this is where the war really started. This was the Persian Gulf. That is where we've seen all of this being concentrated in, at least for the first 4 days. The Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, that is where all of this was targeted. Far away from there, here is where we're at. This is where this is how far away we're at from the war where it's actually taking place. This is about 40 nautical miles away from Galle, which is a port city in Sri Lanka. That is where this particular sinking of the submarine has taken place. If you look at where exactly the war was playing out, which is here in the Persian Gulf, which is here near the Strait of Hormuz, which is now blocked, from there to come in here all the way. What kind of concern is that for India and India's maritime interests as well?
Yeah, I just happened to be there at Galle just 15 days back. So I'm also surprised what was the business for them to come all the way this side, because they don't have any job to be in this area. They should be near the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman, in that area. So why they have come, I'm myself in a fix to think why they came all the way this side. But definitely, US keeps its submarines across all over the world, let me tell you, all over the world they have. So they keep a watch, but definitely they cannot get into the exclusive economic zone of any country, which is 200 kilometers or 200 nautical miles, in fact. So they should not be coming there. 200 nautical miles, around 370 kilometers. So they have no business to enter the exclusive economic zone of any country. They don't have. So it can go to the international court also if they have entered exclusive economic zone of any country and then done this job.
Commander, I request you to stay on with us because a lot of these norms and rules are clearly being thrown to the wind. Does Donald Trump, does United States, Israel actually care about sticking to any of these norms? That's another point of discussion altogether. But I do want to also introduce our two other guests who join us on this broadcast. Owen Altman is a diplomatic correspondent with I-24 News. Errol Morkoch is also joining us. He's a senior spokesman of Republican Overseas. And I want to get in Mr. Altman first. I understand that just a few minutes before you were to join us, there were sirens that were blaring once again. You had to take cover. That seems to be routine, at least for the last 4 days or so. What exactly seems to be the situation at the moment? And what is the sense that you're getting on ground? For how long is this going to go on?
We'll start with the Israeli home front. You're right. We're used to this, sadly. There are people who have been killed. There are people who have been injured. There are people who had property destroyed. But for 99.9% of the rest of us, we've just been going through the drills, changing our lives, changing our routines, going to the shelters, coming back, learning what the procedures are of our home front command for letting us know what to do. You're right. We've been used to this over the 4 days of this war, but we've also become used to this over the 2.5 years of war since October 7th, understanding the different kinds of alerts from different fronts, whether they be from the Gaza Strip, which thankfully the rocket fire has been long behind us, or from Lebanon, or from Yemen, so far dormant over the course of this war, and obviously most recently from Iran. I can say the morale here is very, very high in here in Israel. There's a sense that we are winning. There's a sense that we're making progress. Obviously, stateside in Washington, we heard the press conference of Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. That's certainly his sense. But obviously, there's a recognition here of the complexity. There's a recognition here of the amorphous nature of the endgame, of how many different scenarios could play out. So obviously, there's an optimism, but it is still a cautious optimism.
We did speak with the Foreign Minister of Israel just a short while ago here on CNN News 18, and he told us that Israel and the United States are ready to be in this for the long haul, for it to continue for as long as it takes, because the end game is to ensure that there is regime change in Iran, and that will be achieved. But can Israel continue? Can they afford to continue for as long as this would go on for?
Well, first, it's wonderful to hear that Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar did an interview with you. It's wonderful that he's out there. India is obviously an incredibly important country and partner for Israel. It feels so long ago that Prime Minister Modi came on his visit here. But it was, of course, just last week. And we all remember those pictures. And here in Israel, remember what we felt, seeing that, especially so deep into a war, which, of course, we're even deeper into now. Look, in terms of the home front, there is obvious staying power. In terms of the military and Israel's diplomatic arena, obviously, we have to wait and see. this is a country that wants to go as far as it can in Iran, as far as it can in terms of hitting Iran's military assets, as far as it can in hitting Iranian political and leadership targets, and of course, as far as it can in actually bringing down and taking the regime down. Will all of those goals be achieved? Will the most maximalist vision of this war be achieved? That is, of course, what we don't know. In terms of the stamina of the public is obviously there, has been for a long time. We've suffered for a very long time from Iran and the octopus arms of its proxies, from Gaza to Lebanon to ones we hadn't known before in Yemen and elsewhere. So this is a country that is interested in doing it. To what extent are the goals achievable is, of course, the unknown of this war.
Now, I ask you to stay on with us because we're talking about what the United States and Israel together are doing, and I want to get in Erol Morkoch as well. Thank you so much for joining us here on CNN News 18. We just heard the Secretary of War there go on to say, and President Trump has reiterated that on multiple occasions as well, that we are in this for the long haul. For as long as it takes to change the regime in Iran, we are ready to do so. Now, Israel has hinted at putting boots on ground. Is the United States also wanting to do that, open to doing that?
The United States is not wanting to do that. Of course, we never take anything off the table. When you are the United States of America, you always have to have your cards in your deck. But the idea is not to put boots on the ground or American boots on the ground besides special forces. And of course, there's maybe more interest in regional allies, inspiring the Kurds or inspiring certain uprisings around there. If there's going to be boots on the ground in Iran, that would be a political disaster for President Trump. So that is not the American goal as of this time.
But if it comes to that, would that be the case if Israel pushes you to do that? Because Israel is ready to put boots on ground, because they say that the only way to see the logical conclusion to this conflict that was started 5 days ago, to this war that was started 5 days ago, is that the regime changes there. And if putting boots on ground is what it takes, then that's what it takes.
Well, unfortunately, the world has a lot of people who want America to do things for them. And Israel is a great ally of the United States, but it's also a proxy for the U.S. military power in that region. And so Israel is, of course, directing what they want to happen. And we are, in most cases, aligned with Israel's stated goals. When it comes to things going as far as that, though, President Trump is in charge. President Trump is not going to put boots on the ground in an unnecessary way. Now, in a disaster scenario, let's say nuclear bomb shot at the U.S. Army or U.S. Air Force or something in the region, some sort of catastrophic event, okay. But in the current circumstances right now, Trump is very hawkish on strikes and very dovish on invasions. And of course, Israel isn't pushing or pulling the United States to do anything. They're our ally and our friend and somebody we're working with.
But as far as this conflict is concerned, Mr. Morkoch, I want to ask you this because the most recent spillover seems to be in the Indian Ocean region, far away from where the actual conflict is going on. I mean, the world seems to be at risk.
The cowardly Iranian Navy should be around the area of the warfare. Instead, they're going around conducting exercises because they're too weak and ineffective to do anything. And the United States Navy will hunt them down around the world and destroy them, along with our Israeli and other partners in that endeavor. But the Iranians certainly don't have any reason to be driving frigates around the Cape of Africa and into the Indian Ocean. The United States guarantees maritime security. The U.S. government is actually going to guarantee the insurance of shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, which is going to, of course, offset Lloyd's of London domination of that situation. So I think very sternly, the United States is sending a message that there's no Iranian ship or submarine or asset that is safe anywhere in the world. And if they think they can hide under the cover of international water, we will prove to them that we own that international water.
Owen Alterman, if Israel and the United States were to take this message around that the world is on one side and Iran's on the other, and anything that Iran touches would be dust, then that's going to be problematic for the rest of the world as well. Is Israel prepared to go with that particular strategy of the United States? Because like Mr. Morkoch was also pointing out, that on certain things, they seem to be on the same page, but on some certain things, they don't see eye to eye.
Well, first of all, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, Mr. Morkoch used the word proxy in one part and ally in another part. Israel certainly doesn't see itself as a proxy of the United States, but very, very much as an ally of the United States. And Donald Trump continues to be wildly popular here for obvious reasons, including among people who don't share other parts of his worldview and are otherwise skeptical of his personality and his political style. They certainly love his policies. and love the way he executes them and loves the way he sells them. In terms of the geographic spread of this, you're absolutely right to focus on that, especially from an Indian perspective and especially given the development today off the coast of Sri Lanka. The reality is it's been the Iranian side that has expanded the geographic scope of this war, much more so than the U.S. and Israeli side, a geographic scope that now extends from Cyprus, of course, all the way to Sri Lanka. But much of that was Iran's doing in terms of attacking the Gulf states, which have become a kind of center of gravity in the diplomatic arena of this war. And the fact that those countries have bought in so many ways, both financially, but much more importantly, in terms of what they have symbolized in terms of their human development, so much soft power around the world, the fact that they've been targeted by Iran, I think has very, very much helped Israel's diplomatic effort in Europe and in the United States in terms of generating support for a war from understandably skeptical publics. In terms of Asia, obviously, the hits to oil supplies, I would imagine, would be an enormous concern for the Indian government and obviously further afield for the Chinese government and more broadly for the world economy. At some point, I would imagine that would be an enormous factor into how this war will play out, how publics will look at it, how the U.S. alliance structure will look in Asia. We're much more focused right now on U.S. public opinion and on Europe. But you're right, the geographic scope of Asia is something that I think will very much be on our radar screens moving forward.
Absolutely, and that's something that a lot of the allies would be skeptical as well, Commander Jaitley, isn't it? I mean, so far, we've seen all of the Arab world nations, all of the Gulf countries facing the brunt for being bases for the United States, for being on the side of Israel and United States. And at some point, patience is going to run thin and patience is eventually going to run out.
See, the problem is there are so many countries who were not liking the reign of terror unleashed by Ayatollah Khamenei and then Ali Khamenei later on. If you see Iran before 1979 and after 79, they have really tortured so many people. And you can say the 50% of the population, the women folk, who used to participate in each and every activity before 1979, they were thrown back to their homes with burqas, black burqas. This was too much for them to absorb and to just accept it as it is. So they retaliated. So there have been a simmering anti-establishment things going on in Israel all the time. Since 1979, let me tell you. And last few months, few years, the uprising started in a big way. There were so many agitations. And a lady who just went to watch a football match, she was hanged. Can you imagine that? And there are so many cases and thousands. Now that uprising only can help in overthrowing this regime. Just killing a few, the next chaps will take over. Then the next will take over. Then the next will take over. Only the Iranian people themselves can change the regime, let me tell you. US cannot change the regime. Israel cannot change the regime. It's the Iranian people themselves.
But they perhaps just want someone pliable, someone that they can control and then control the entire region, not just Iran. I mean, that's something that seems to be the end game here. But I do want you to stay on with us, and I want our other guests to indulge me as well as we talk about where this war is headed and can the US actually continue to drag this on as they claim they would want to until those goals are achieved. According to the US president, he says that we have an infinite number of resources, that stockpiles are higher and better than ever. He says that the United States has virtually unlimited supplies, but is that actually the case? The country can fight wars indefinitely is what US President Donald Trump said. He said we're fully stocked, we're fully prepared. His Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, just a short while ago echoed that message. But behind the scenes, there seems to be some unease. And what reports are also suggesting is that the administration, in fact, is planning meetings with major US defense contractors. Why is that? Because stockpiles are depleting. In 2 days from now, we're going to be seeing that crucial meeting take place at the White House, and discussions are going to be focused on accelerating weapons production. That scheduled meeting with top defense industry leaders at the White House is to replenish supplies amid this military strikes that involve Iran. So for how long can they actually drag this out as they claim they would? And more, Coach, I want to ask you that, it's one thing about rhetoric, it's one thing to say that we will ensure that we reach the logical conclusion of this particular war, but financially, militarily, can the US afford to drag this on for as long as they really want to?
In this situation, I mean, forever is sort of a variable term because forever only encapsulates how long the other side can enable themselves, right? So like a market can remain insolvent more than you can remain irrational. And so in a situation here, Trump and Hegseth both have stressed for tier 2 and tier 3 munitions, the type of munitions that would not be highly kinetic, hypersonic, precision, nuclear, EMP, these kind of specialized weapons. In these general munitions, we have, compared to the time frame of expending them, an unlimited supply. And the idea that we couldn't ramp that up in the United States domestically is crazy. We have the absolute best international defense industry possible. Now, financially, I mean, the goal isn't to run a forever war. The goal isn't to just make defense contractors rich by bombing people. And so there has to be balance there, because the American people, especially Donald Trump's supporters, are not going to support a forever war, especially going into the midterm. So Trump has to be tactical here. And also, we have to be realistic that, again, the U.S. output manufacturing supply in this place is unmatched. The Russians can produce munitions at this great rate, but if the Russians can do it, we can do it much better than them. And we have the stockpiles verified and unverified. And President Trump has gone around and placed those munitions in strategic countries all around our different proxy countries in the Middle East, whether that's in Qatar, whether that's in Turkey, whether that's anywhere. We have created an entire ring around Iran with these weapons, or allies in Israel. And so in that situation, I'm not at all concerned about the lack of munitions. I am, however, concerned about the lack of will from the U.S. Congress, and we'll have to find out how that happens.
And speaking of that lack of will, because there were some senators, some congressmen who came out and have publicly voiced their concerns of what really the strategy is of the Trump administration, which is why I do want to play out some sound bites and some reactions that we've seen from the Senate minority leader and other senators as well, who've come out and said that after a congressional hearing, we were more confused than ever before. Let's listen into those reactions before I get in more voices on our panel.
I left the intelligence briefing more concerned than reassured. If the case for war were strong, it would be consistent. Instead, the rationales change by the hour. Regime change, nuclear weapons, missiles, defense, preemptive. Which is it? When the justification keeps shifting, a strategy is missing. There is no strategy.
I just left a classified briefing on Iran, and it only confirmed what we already knew. Donald Trump is waging an illegal war, and he has no plan to end it. Today, he said we attacked Iran because he had a feeling, but we know the truth. Trump is lying about Iran's nuclear capacity. He's lying about Iran's missile capabilities, and he's dragging the United States into another endless war in the Middle East.
Owen Alterman, I want to ask you this. I mean, stockpiles aren't unlimited, and it's day 5. Tehran is retaliating. Was there some miscalculation perhaps on part of Israel and of the United States? Did you actually think that this would go on for as long as it did, and that Tehran would keep hitting you back for as long as they're doing it so?
The war is obviously unpredictable, but I think it's too early to make the call on whether there was or wasn't a miscalculation. Analysts here, and I suspect in many other places, are seeing this now as a race. Who can wear down the other side faster? Can the United States and Israel destroy
It's an attritional war at the moment.
Right. Well, in a sense, can the United States and Israel destroy Iran's capacity to launch its missiles faster than Iran can force the United States and Israel, and for that matter, the Gulf states, to deplete their supplies of interceptors? That's the way it's being framed in some senses here. Exactly who's going to win that race is what we don't know. We heard again how much, again, just most recently in the last few hours from the Pentagon, just how much the strikes in practice have gone down by 86% in terms of missiles, 73% in terms of drones. Those were the numbers given by the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States, Dan Raisen-Kane. So that's in terms of strikes, but in terms of how much of the capacity has been hit, that's an open question. Some of this, from what we understand, is deep underground and hard to hit. And yes, interceptors of missiles at this range, as opposed to the short-range interceptors, for example, of Israel's Iron Dome system, which are not relevant for Iran, they are expensive. They take a long time to produce. But this is one of the unknowns. You're right that this is one of the open questions of the war, but it is still an open question, not a closed one.
Well, we'll see for how long this drags on and who wears who out, who tires the enemy out in this particular case. That's really is going to decide when and how this war ends. But I thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here and sharing your perspective on this. But I do want to dig a little deeper into what this war would eventually become, what this war of attrition really is. Because waves of drone attacks by the Islamic Republic of Iran are putting pressure on the defenses, not just of the United States, but also of its partners, especially in the Gulf. From Bahrain to the United Arab Emirates, they're all feeling the heat because weapon stockpiles are depleting. They're also getting attacked left, right and center because they have given shelter to American assets. The outcome of the fight may depend on which side runs out of munitions first. Who will last the longest? Here's a deep dive. It's day 5 of the war between Iran and United States and the Israel coalition, and it's already become one of attrition. The outcome and duration of the war in the Middle East may be decided by a grim calculus based on the size of Iran's drone and missile stocks versus the vital air defense munitions held by the United States, Israel and their Gulf allies. Since the war began, Tehran has responded with repeated waves of drone swarms, missiles aimed at US bases across the Arab world and in mainland Israel. Iran has launched hundreds of projectiles, including cruise missiles and Shahed series drones across the region. On the defensive side, US and allied forces have relied heavily on high-end missile defense systems like the Patriot or the THAAD interceptors to shoot down these incoming threats. These systems are effective. Interception rates are set to exceed 90% in many engagements, but each shot comes at a steep price. It depletes limited inventories. This has turned much of the conflict into what experts call an attritional salvo competition, a race to expend fewer resources than the opponent. One of the defining features of this conflict has been the economic and production imbalance between the offensive and defensive weapons. Cheap Iranian drones versus the million-dollar American interceptor missiles. The Shahed 136 are 3.5 meters long. They have a wingspan of 2.5 meters. They're relatively slow, but they can carry an explosive payload of about 50 kilograms. That's enough to damage a skyscraper, not just enough to bring it down. Their range is as much as 2,000 kilometers, and they're typically pre-programmed on complex flight paths, traveling low above ground to try to evade radar detection. The relatively low cost and ease of manufacture, particularly compared with a ballistic missile, means that these drones are more likely to remain a feature of this conflict for some time now. The Iranian drones like the Shahed 136 are estimated to cost roughly $20,000 to $50,000 per unit to produce. Even the higher estimates for export models rarely exceed about $80,000, a relatively low cost by military standards. Now contrast that with the US Patriot intercept missiles. They can cost up to $4 million or more per shot, and potentially, depending on the variant, much further. Some higher-end variants exceed $6 to $8 million per shot. The Patriot system detects, tracks and engages UAVs, cruise missiles and short-range or tactical ballistic missiles. These systems have been tested in combat operations in the Middle East in the past, and they form the backbone of the Gulf nations' defenses. But this disparity creates a cost imposition strategy for Iran. By launching low-cost drones in high numbers, Tehran forces the defenders to expend far more expensive interceptors. Using a $4 million interceptor to destroy a $20,000 drone represents a 100-to-1 cost imbalance. This cost exchange clearly favors the side with cheap mass weapons, which in this case seems to be Iran. So while US President Donald Trump says that he is in it for the long haul, Tehran is actually prepared to drag this one out. Over time, this disparity depletes US and allied stockpiles rapidly, especially given the volume of attacks. Patriots and similar interceptors like the THAAD are not infinitely available. Production is slow, inventories can be strained when they're fired in such large numbers across multiple fronts. Even highly effective systems like the Patriot and the Iron Dome have limited magazines of missiles to fire. Iran was estimated to have about 2,000 ballistic missiles after last year's conflict with Israel. It's likely to have larger number of Shaheds, which Russia, the other main manufacturer, has been able to produce at a rate of several hundred per day. Contrast that to what the Gulf nations or the United States and Israel have. As per estimates, Qatar's stock of Patriot interceptor missiles will last only 4 days at the current rate of use. The Trump administration is putting in motion a plan to restock its supplies. A meeting with executives from biggest US defense contractors is expected this week at the White House to discuss accelerating weapons production. That meeting underscores the urgency felt in Washington to shore up weapons stocks after the Iran operation drew heavily on these munitions. So the big question, who is really running out? At this stage, the public picture is mixed. Iran may indeed be struggling with certain types of launch systems and sophisticated missiles due to partly being targeted strikes and industrial limitations, but Tehran still retains large stocks of cheap drones and simpler munitions which it can deploy en masse. The United States and allies have far more advanced defenses and deeper pockets, but firing millions of dollars of interceptors per engagement is not sustainable indefinitely. If the conflict continues at this rate for weeks rather than days, as Donald Trump predicts, the balance of cost versus quantity, production speed versus expenditure will increasingly shape strategic decisions. The impact of this attritional war are well beyond the battlefield. If the United States or its allies begin to visibly run low on interceptors, domestic and international pressure to de-escalate could rise sharply. Perhaps that's the reason why, despite being pounded by Iranian projectile, Gulf nations are taking a cautious approach. They're not jumping at the chance of a retaliation. The bottom line really is this. The current Middle East war isn't just about technology performance, but it's about economic sustainability. It is a war of resources and endurance, and the side that lasts longest will ultimately decide how and when this war ends. So it's day 5 of the war and there is no let-up. We are seeing projectiles coming in from all quarters. We are seeing sirens that are being sounded in different parts of Israel. CNN News 18, in fact, is the only channel to get you a sense of what's transpiring in Israel, both from Tel Aviv and from Jerusalem. Take a look at this exclusive ground report.
Well, here goes the siren again. A ballistic missile detected on its way here. Probably a good time to step into a shelter. And here you can see in the sky, an interceptor has been launched to take on an incoming missile. You can see that battle in there. You can hear the sounds coming in now. Big bangs coming in from the sky.
हम इस वक्त नॉर्थ ईस्ट जेरूसलम में हैं। अभी अभी सायरन बज गई है और लोग यहाँ पे जमा हो रहे हैं। अगर एक और सायरन बजती है तो लोग यहाँ पे अंडरग्राउंड बंकर्स में जाएंगे। आप देख सकते हैं कि इर्द गिर्द लोगों ने गाड़ियाँ खड़ी कर दी हैं और रुक गए हैं और अब वेट कर रहे हैं। अगर एक और सायरन बजती है तो सारे लोग जो है वो यहाँ पे अंडरग्राउंड बंकर्स में जाएंगे। तो लगातार सायरन्स बज रही, ईरान की तरफ से लगातार अटैक्स किए जा रहे हैं और दूसरी तरफ से हिजबुल्लाह भी कोशिश कर रहा है इसराइल को निशाना बनाने की। हालांकि इसराइल की तरफ से लगातार हिजबुल्लाह को भी निशाना बनाया जा रहा है। तो फिलहाल यहाँ पे इस वक्त ये जो वार्निंग है वो आ गई है, लेकिन अभी अगर एक और सायरन बजती है तो उसके बाद यहाँ पे ये सारे लोग जो इर्द गिर्द हैं ये बंकरों में जाएंगे अपने आप को बचाने के लिए। अभी अभी जो यहाँ पे सायरन बजी है उसके बाद धमाके जोरदार हुए। या तो इंटरसेप्ट किया गया मिसाइल्स को जो लगातार ईरान की तरफ से अटैक किया जा रहा है, और अब हम देख रहे हैं इर्द गिर्द जो हैं वो एम्बुलेंसेस की आवाज़ सुनाई दी जा रही है। हो सकता है कि कहीं पे मिसाइल गिरा हो, ये अभी क्लियर नहीं हो पाया है कि आखिर ये धमाके किस चीज़ के हुए, लेकिन ज़ोरदार धमाके हुए। या तो आसमान में उन मिसाइल्स को इंटरसेप्ट किया गया या कहीं पे वो कोई मिसाइल या रॉकेट जो है टारगेट पे लगा होगा। तो फिलहाल यहाँ पर जो ही सायरन बजी तो सारे लोग जो थे, मैं इस वक्त जेरूसलम में हूँ और सारे लोग जो हैं अंडरग्राउंड बंकर्स में गए थे, जो बॉम्ब शेल्टर हैं उनमें गए थे और अब धीरे धीरे वो
Well, the situation there is not letting up as far as Israel is concerned, and that's the situation for many other countries as well. While the world watched for the last 4 days, and world powers across the world, not just in that region of West Asia, they saw what was unfolding there. Some watched it with confidence, some others with anxiety. China, though, was silent until today. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi finally dialed his Israeli counterpart Gideon Sa'ar and reminded that the attack on Iran came as negotiations were on between Washington and Tehran, and that those negotiations were making significant progress. China issued a strong warning to US and Israel over these attacks on Iran. The Chinese Foreign Minister said, and I quote, that Beijing rejects any military strikes that are launched by Israel and the United States against Iran, that force cannot truly solve problems and often creates new crises. There is going to be long-term instability, is a warning that China sounded out. The Chinese Foreign Minister also went on to say that the real value of military power lies not on the battlefield, but in preventing this war. Now, China is already bracing for the full economic impact of this conflict. Energy supplies are severely disrupted, the supply lines, even though Strait of Hormuz and Iran has made an exception for the Chinese vessels across that strait, there seems to be some disruption nonetheless. So why is the dragon spitting fire then, and will it go beyond just the kind of warnings and comments that it has come through? To try and decode that and get some answers, we're joined by Einar Tangen. He's a senior fellow at the Center for International Government Innovation and chairman of Asia Narratives Substack. Thank you so much for joining us here and speaking with us. China is finally looking into what exactly is unfolding there, sounding out an alarm, so to say, to Israel to stop this as soon as possible. What's at stake for China?
Well, Poonam, it's not just China. China is deeply integrated into the world. It's number 100 in terms of the 195 countries in terms of resources per person. And it relies on a very robust trade relationship where it brings in resources, adds value, and then sells them. War is not good for China. But Chinese military is not geared for any kind of offensive action, especially overseas. It's not the way they have set up. It's all defensive, taken care of within the country. So they don't have the capability to do it. They can supply weapon systems, defensive. I don't think they're going to be offering any kind of offensive ICBM type things, but definitely defense items could be part of that, whether it's early warning radar, or systems that shoot down incoming missiles and things like this. So they're strongly worded, but there's not much they can do or want to. Going against Israel means going against the United States, and that would lock nuclear powers onto each other, and we don't know what the outcome would be.
But, like you said, one aspect, of course, is of capability, and China seems to lack that to do anything beyond just, sort of put out these statements and hope and appeal that something would change. But the fact is that there seems to be a spillover effect of this war beyond just that region. In fact, we did see a submarine that was targeted of the Iranian submarine that was targeted by the United States in the Indian Ocean region. That is much closer home for China. Would that be a concern? Would that elicit a stronger response from Beijing?
Well, I mean, the response is the same. I mean, they're less concerned about military assets than they are about the people who are dying. As we speak, over 1,000 people have died in Iran, and there have been military personnel and civilians who have died on the other side. Death is not going to solve this issue. It's not just the submarine that was attacked. There was also a frigate off of, I believe, Sri Lanka. This is spreading around. Remember, this fire was lit by Washington and by Israel. They decided that they wanted to bomb Iran proactively. They have not been able to state with any certainty, without backtracking and saying something else, exactly why they did it. And at this point, the world is waiting with breath. How far will this go? Already European powers are weighing in. They're sending ships, troops, defensive systems, airplanes to, quote, protect their assets in those areas. And this is the problem with the world. You still have the vestiges of a colonial empire who are trying to hang on to what they think belongs to them. These countries belong to the people who live there, not army people who are stationed there.
But it's more than just that. There is more at stake for China, isn't it? Especially as far as oil supply is concerned. I mean, Iran has made an exception for Chinese vessels as far as passage through the Strait of Hormuz is concerned. But if the fighting exception would mean very little.
Well, just to put it in context, we're talking about 6 to 8 million barrels per day.
Correct.
Go to China, and they have somewhere between 200 and 300 million barrels in reserve. They bought it when oil was cheap. They can last out, but everybody. I mean, the real danger to China is not just the oil. Let's say they can get oil in and out. It's the price increases. What that does to global demand, and what that does to the global economy. We're all in this boat together. Pretend that somehow China is different from the rest of the world is nonsense. If you want to talk about who will win on a temporary basis, you can look to those resource-rich areas, those especially with oil, who are outside the need to ship it through that area. So you're talking about places like Venezuela, also Kazakhstan, Russia, obviously. Those are the ones who will gain temporarily. But the fact is, overall demand will continue to go down as people have to spend more on energy.
Correct.
And they therefore have less disposable income.
And that is going to have a ripple effect, like you said, not just for China, but for the rest of the world as well. And we'll have to wait and watch as to how this unfolds and eventually who it is that comes out shining and who it is that's reduced to rubble, so to say.
Who comes out shining for this? Don't kid yourself. People dying is not furnishing anything, and the U.S.
Absolutely, and the kind of narratives that both sides have said that they are in this for the long haul. Neither of them want to let this go anytime soon, and that's the worst aspect of it all. But unfortunately, I'm completely out of time. I have to thank you, Ainar Tangin, for speaking with us and sharing your perspective. I understand there are some plans that you have to move to Iran at the moment, leaving India. But you were one of those people who celebrated the Israeli and United States onslaught, which eventually led to the killing of Ayatollah Khamenei. If you would tell us why exactly is that? Why is it that you think that Trump did what no one else could and that should be celebrated?
Thank you for having me, first of all. First, I want to say that I'm leaving India, but I'm not going back to Iran because, as you know, right now there is not a situation that I can go back to Iran, and I've been banned from Iran for many years. But on a celebration, well, let me put it this way for you: the Iranian people have been in war with this regime for 48 years. And what's happening right now, especially with the death of Khamenei, there was a new hope for us that this regime is going to go, and that's the reason we celebrated. And imagine the suppression this government has forced upon us, that the fact that we celebrating, the celebration has become our tool of resistance towards this regime. Because yes, you can kill us, yes, you can execute our young people, you can keep us in such a heavy separation, but you're not going to be able to kill our soul and our iman and our faith to fight with you. And the celebration is a source of resistance for all of us in Iran and outside of Iran.
But do you think that things will actually change with the end of Ayatollah Khamenei? Because what we're learning is that it's his son who is probably going to take that mantle now.
See, it has to change because the reason the people of Iran, they've asked for this war, they asked for the help of Israel and America, is because if you stay the same, it's actually more deadlier than any other. If the change is not going to happen, I mean, Iranian people, they don't know what to do anymore. We don't know what to do anymore, to be honest. And when you're talking about his son coming in power, it's like another Khamenei coming to power, because a father who has been in a direct order killed more than 50,000 people only in January 8 and 9, and 47 years after suppression by this regime, how anything is going to change? Do you think a son of a Khamenei who's from the same family, who's from the same breed, is going to change anything? And the second point is why the Iranian people, they don't get the choice and an option to choose for themselves. Why is that? sad because now Iranians in Iran and outside of Iran are chanting and shouting and screaming and saying that Reza Pahlavi, we want him back. And by putting his son, nothing is going to change for Iranian people. And probably, and in one of the statements that the United States has made is that that this war is not going to stop until they clear this regime. And you can see it also. 2 days ago, they on the first day after his death, they put someone else in power for roughly few hours, and he was dead. That just shows this regime has to go, because this regime is a cancerous cell, not only for Iranians, not only in that, but in the whole region. Look at the way they attacking UAE. Look at the way they're attacking the other neighbors around Iran. This regime cannot stay, and not only for Iranians. It's if the regime is gone, not is only good for Iranians, but it's good for the entire region. It's good for the world. As we know that they are the reason behind of a lot of funding of organized terrorist organization. So imagine a free Iran, and an Iran where Iranians they can go back to their country and they build. Imagine that Iran for a second.
But I just want to ask you this. I mean, you know, the US president even yesterday came out and said that the ultimate goal for this operation was always regime change, and that they want someone that would be pliable, would be good for Iran and for the rest of the world as well. But what's the guarantee that the individual that, say, a United States or anyone outside of Iran would choose would be the individual that's right for Iran?
First of all, USA also has announced it, that we are giving the help that Iranians they ask for us. In the latest process in Iran, there was a lot of people asked why the flag of America and Israel in Iran was alongside with our Shiro Khorshid flag, which I'm wearing it as well, right? That's because Iranians in Iran they asked the help of USA. And the goal is changing of the regime. And why Reza Pahlavi? Because Reza Pahlavi has been working on a program, on a plan, how we can build Iran. And he keep repeating himself, I don't want to become a next king. I don't want to become so and so and so. I want to go back to Iran. And for now, all the Iranians are showing their support for him. But he said it many times that when we go back to Iran, when we take our country, I want people to vote. And if people, they vote for me, which so far they do, because in the country, they're just chanting Reza Pahlavi. Outside of the country, everyone says Reza Pahlavi.
Well, we are shifting focus to some news that's coming in from back home here. Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar is all set to go to the Rajya Sabha. Top JDU sources are now revealing to CNN News 18 that Nitish has already signed his nomination papers. Remember, he was the longest serving Chief Minister of Bihar. This was his 10th term, but now he is going to move out of Bihar. He is going to be entering the Rajya Sabha. The nomination is going to be filed tomorrow. What happens next for the state of Bihar? That's something that's still being discussed. Is there going to be a JDU leader that's anointed that takes Nitish Kumar's place, or is the Deputy Chief Minister of Bihar, who is a BJP leader, Samrat Chaudhary, he takes the mantle? That's something that still needs to be discussed. That's something that both parties, both BJP and the JDU, will have to figure out. But for now, it has been confirmed that Nitish Kumar indeed is going to be headed to the national political scene, which means into the Rajya Sabha. Payal, my colleague, now joins us, getting us more details on this. Payal, what more can you share with us?
Well, but we do understand that Nitish Kumar is going to, in fact, make way for the next Chief Minister of Bihar, given the fact that Nitish Kumar has 10 terms that he's already serving, and that is something which has been there. His health has been worsening, is what we are given to understand, and taking that route as well, it is very important for the BJP to step in and say that we'll have our own Chief Minister. That's the understanding we have. It has taken a lot for the JDU to convince Nitish Kumar to bring in what post he takes. Does he become the CM? It looks very unlikely. He might be given the Deputy CM's post. And BJP and the JDU, Poonam had contested the same number of seats. And the BJP and the JDU almost have the same number of candidates have been able to win. So it's going to be a big task to hand over the chief ministerial post. Citing his poor health is what the JDU leadership has said, that he deserves a graceful exit. Therefore, it's a very important fact which is coming to the fore. But any decision on the CM is likely to be taken only after the results of the Rajya Sabha elections are announced mid-month.
Tomorrow is the last day of nomination, which is why we're going to be seeing that nomination take place tomorrow. The resignation is expected to take place tomorrow as well, early in the morning, Payal?
There is of course, the election which is going to take place tomorrow as far as I beg your pardon, this is a nomination which is going to take place tomorrow as far as that is concerned. Remember, there are 2 seats who are going to be filing the nomination. BJP's National President Nitin Naveen will be filing the nomination at 11 a.m. Tomorrow in Patna. He, of course, will be accompanied by the BJP's top leadership like Amit Shah will be present over there. He's the Home Minister and also will be joining Nitish Kumar for his nomination at 11:30. So big nominations coming in from Bihar. Tomorrow as the last day of the Rajya Sabha nominations really closed tomorrow. So big developments coming to the fore. There is no emergency situation is what the BJP and the NDA have been able to tell us, that they will play this through. They knew that Nitish Kumar's health was only deteriorating from here on. So therefore, a succession plan had to be put into place. And the NDA respected Nitish Kumar, gave him the position because they won the election in his name, gave him the due position, but his health has constantly been worsening and has been taking a toll. So therefore, better senses prevailed within the JDU camp to essentially put forth a candidate who can actually, take them to the Rajya Sabha. In this sense, Nitish Kumar has already served as a union minister in the past as well. So that's an important update coming through.
Right, Pal, for the moment, thank you so much. Of course, the day of reckoning, the day to watch out for is going to be tomorrow, and we'll keep our eyes peeled out on that. But for the moment, it's a wrap from my side on this edition of Brass Tacks. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Super exclusive ground report by CNN News 18 Sanjay Suri from Tel Aviv. Rifat Abdullah, who's currently stationed in Jerusalem.
Well, here goes the siren again. A ballistic missile detected on its way here. Probably a good time to step into a shelter.
अभी जो यहाँ पे सायरन बजी है उसके बाद धमाके जोरदार हुए या तो इंटरसेप्ट किया गया मिसाइल्स को जो लगातार ईरान की तरफ से अटैक किया जा रहा
to try and put pressure on, in fact, the Israelis and the Americans. You've got more updates.
Which are coming in. Fresh Iran strikes on the Saudi Aramco refinery, ladies and gentlemen. Oil refinery site has been targeted once again. The second strike on the refinery in the last 3 days. This will send shockwaves across the energy markets once again as the oil infrastructure in Saudi Arabia has been targeted. But another big news that's coming in.
We don't have pictures of that.
Right.
We don't have pictures.
We'll try to get those, Rahul will try to get those visuals. But this is the big update that's coming in the neighborhood. In our neighborhood, big updates which are coming in. A submarine attack on an Iranian ship is what we are learning. An Iranian ship was targeted near the Sri Lankan coast. And the Lankan Navy has launched rescue operations. 35 people have been rescued. Over 60 are missing. This Iranian ship had 180 crew on board. So a submarine attack on an Iranian ship near the coast of Sri Lanka. So this is entering our theater as well.
What's going on? I mean, who are these people? Was this just a normal cargo vessel belonging to an Iranian carrier? What was it doing by Sri Lanka? What's happening here, Tom Cooper? What do you think is happening? Why are the Iranians fishing in Sri Lankan waters?
I'm trying to set up the map so I can show you.
That's way off.
Sri Lanka is down here.
Yes, Sri Lanka is down here.
Every ship of every possible nation has the right to travel along the sea. That's not a problem.
True.
So the question is now who has attacked this ship?
And what was it carrying? Was it carrying material from China?
I don't know.
We don't know
the
why
name
would
of the
it have been
ship or
attacked?
something
Do we
else.
have any details?
Right, we'll try to get some more details, but these are the updates which are coming in. But it's very interesting to see that the Naval Force of the Revolutionary Guard has destroyed the American strategic radar FPS-132 in West Asia in Qatar. This has happened at dawn today. So we can see an escalation of the operations in that region. But it's very concerning if these operations are also spreading over to the Indian Ocean.
So do we know?
They're claiming the destruction of this radar since the first day. And now there are satellite photographs confirming that it was hit. When it was destroyed is a different story.
Actually, let's pull out those photographs, those satellite photographs that we have been showing our viewers. Those are the X-rays, really, of those strikes. So then we can tell you exactly what has happened, how much damage has been caused. So let's pull that out, Director Saab, and put it on the wall behind me. But in the meantime, I just want to ask you this. What and who has targeted this Iranian vessel? Do we know?
Who targeted given the situation in the Middle East is something that will send alarm across the Indian intelligence as well as security.
It's now also freeing Iran to retaliate in fashion. and it still has submarines.
This Iranian ship had 180 crew on board, 35 people have been rescued. The Lankan Navy has launched those rescue operations. We'll get more details as more and more updates coming in on this.
I've been reading about that, but there's such little clarity on what went down there, because why would somebody target a vessel with 180 people? What kind of vessel would carry 180 people?
Normal cargo ships don't normal merchant ship would have a crew of 20, 40 people, not more.
Yeah.
So why are there suddenly 180, 200 Iranians on board?
But could there be stealth operations underway from the US and Israeli forces?
Of course it could be,
especially the USA front in this area?
Especially USA. I'm not entirely sure if Israeli submarines can reach this far, because they are not nuclear propelled. But
in any case, where would they have come from? They would have had to come through here, I suppose.
No, Iranian ship from here.
No, the Israeli ships.
Israeli ship would actually have to travel around the entire, at least in order to remain undetected, around entire Africa. It's possible to do. You can send a supply ship, refuel it underway, and so on and so on. But it is extremely exhausting for the crew, also because it would mostly have to operate in very hot waters. Which is particularly exhausting for submarine crew, because on a conventionally powered submarine, the air conditioning is simply not strong enough.
And we're getting more information. This is from Al Jazeera, where bodies have been recovered from the Iranian. It's a frigate. It's not some cargo.
Frigate.
It's a
frigate. It was a warship.
It's a warship near the Sri Lankan coast, and bodies have been recovered.
What is an Iranian warship doing
near
the waters of Sri Lanka? Is there a base that the Americans have?
I mean, that is really a good question. What was he doing over there? Because Iranian warships did make cruises up to Syria, for example, or Gulf of Aden. They're regularly here also because of piracy patrols and so on. So no question about this. But what was he doing near Sri Lanka? That is outside of my capability to explain.
That is an interesting twist. And let's have a look at those other things that we're wanting to show you, these maps, these X-rays. What are we seeing here? This is US Navy's 5th Fleet, headquarters in Bahrain. So what exactly does all this represent?
Well, this is simply Iranian retaliation strikes. They have coordinates, GPS coordinates, they enter them into the UAVs and send them away. Where the UAV then hits 2 meters to the left or to the right, nobody cares. 20 meters to the right, nobody cares.
What kind of vessels would have been here at these at the headquarters in Bahrain of the 5th Fleet?
Usually there would be a command ship of the 5th Fleet, which is a rebuilt amphibious assault vessel. So a huge ship with lots of space, lots of communication antennas on top, and all the stuff would be on board of it.
Right, that's very interesting. Now, this is the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar.
Yes.
And we are seeing some destruction there. If you look behind you, you can even see a clearer image. There it is. What are we seeing here? What's happened? What is this?
I have to zoom out myself a little bit.
Have a look behind you, Tom. You can get a better sense on what you're seeing also, because it's a clearer, less pixelated image. Yeah.
This is something I'm not sure what it is.
It's a lot of scarring on the ground.
Like containers or buildings that have been hit. So, but it is no hardened aircraft shelter or something of that kind.
Right. So this is maybe a communications radar or something. Could be anything.
Or headquarters as well. Yes.
And then there's the camp Arif Jan, Kuwait, and you can see some of these round things that have been punctured. What could be these? Because
that
storage.
Could be theoretically petroleum or something similar storage facility.
Yes.
Definitely some kind of storage facility because of the construction. But what exactly was there hit? That is also hard to gauge. Something was hit and something burned out.
And let's have a look at the airbase in Kuwait, because that made a lot of news. This is the Ali Al Salem Air Base in Kuwait. There's a radome, there's a satellite dish, there's damaged structures. What are we looking at
If you freeze this for a moment, please.
Yes, freeze this for a moment. Yeah, okay.
Point is this.